Samborskiy. That's if I go for the proper transliteration from Ukrainian into English. I will use my Ukrainian hand-carved pointer. This is Ukraine. I circled the Crimea too, as well, because even though it's occupied by the Russians, it's still Ukrainian. And I come from here, Khmelnytsky, was born and raised there, and then went, at the age of 18, went to study in Kyiv. I left Ukraine when I was pretty old. That's why I never attempted, and could have not probably, to a great extent, rid myself of the accent. I left Ukraine when I was 29 and a half. To left Ukraine, I came to San Francisco via New York. Well, I came with on the invitation to give presentations on the rehabilitation of children of Chernobyl, whom I was evacuating in Ukraine. So several of my articles somehow got to the psychologists in San Francisco and Los Angeles, and they decided to invite me with a series of presentations. Afterwards, I went back, and then I was invited again, and then the Soviet Union broke apart, and I didn't have the country to go back to. Luckily, the Soviet Union broke apart. So the country I came from ceased its existence when I was here. I had to convince people who didn't have any idea, any clue about Central and Eastern Europe, what we are, what we know, what our education is like. So they were trying to send me around in circles to prove something, that I have to take more courses, this and that. Well, it took about 3 years. I started teaching probably after 4 years. Yeah, I had to get the work permit, all these things, and confirm my diplomas. I was born with Ukrainian, then I had to learn Russian in the Soviet Union, then I learned Polish with my friends, then I learned English, then I learned French, then I came here and decided to learn Spanish and started going to Mexico once or twice a year, so it's fun. My spoken English could not have been good because there was nobody to speak with. And that perhaps was a blessing, because, well, there were no TV channels to watch in English. I was trying to listen to BBC World Service, their famous programs with, where they would air plays. I wanted to listen to the Voice of America in English, but they were all jammed in the Soviet Union. So the only resource I could use was literature. So I was reading like crazy. Well, yes, it is ironic, especially when I was offered to teach AP English literature and honors English. I embraced it with great alacrity, but it was ironic for many people. But this guy with his thick accent would teach me AP English literature and advanced placement, college level English literature. People were puzzled, and those who were not puzzled, I had to quickly impress. Those who wanted to challenge somebody with an accent, I had to come up with something witty and sometimes challenging for their personal perception of their wit and twisted sense of humor. And they realized very quickly that it's not the accent, it's the thought that counts and how you express it. I had some good experiences, actually. People were curious. There were very few of us, and especially very few of those of us who actually could explain ourselves. So people were curious. Who was a Ukrainian? Where was Ukraine even? What I was doing with those children of Chernobyl? How I was getting here and all this. So they were curious. Actually, that's when I enjoyed the place. I enjoyed California very much because I thought, hey, this is a place people actually people want to learn from the outsiders and newcomers rather than to impose on them their own values. Perhaps the fact that I have been teaching world literature and AP literature allowed me to never think of the place I teach, but rather focus on the students who needed me and my knowledge as their window to the world. I never thought of myself as being Ukrainian or American. I always thought of myself as being a citizen of the world, even though it may sound trite, but that's how I thought of myself. Because I liked to read when I was a kid. I was reading and doing different sports and trying to learn different things. And always, I would live, reading Jack London, I would live in Alaska or in California. I discovered, I think many of us immigrants, or even those who visit here for a while, we discover the beauty of our own places. A lot of things I believe I did, acquainting the American public with Ukraine through decorating Easter eggs or opening the San Francisco Ukraine Day in Golden Gate Park, blowing the mountain horn. I play many different roles, many different hats. Right now I am an educator, a principal. In 35 minutes I'll be a wild running guy playing tennis and trying to win the game. In about 2 hours and a half, I will be an attentive and loving husband. Then tomorrow morning, I will be a model teacher, a model educator again. On Wednesday, I'll put on a different hat when I go teach my university students and actually enjoy this psychology symposium that they're going to present their research studies. So, and then in the summer, I will be somebody different. I'll go back to Europe and back to Ukraine, and I will live yet another different life that I cannot live to the full extent here. And perhaps it's good because I'll be thirsty for that different life and I will enjoy it to the full. One of my mottos was, and I spread it around when I can, when it's appropriate, you don't have to be where you come from. You can always learn to be somebody